Welcome to this week's first Teachers Supporting Teachers. We're talking about Nearpod today, which is one of my favorites. I'm going to tell you the truth though before we start. When someone, I think Melinda and I were just talking about maybe 4 years ago, said, Liz, I want to figure out this Nearpod. I opened it up and went, I don't understand. I don't know how this works. And so I kind of was confused by it. Now that I know it, I don't think it's confusing at all. I don't know what my problem was. I only bring that up because if you are the type of person that looks at something new and says, I'm not ready, I don't understand. Nearpod is one that we're going to figure it out. It's probably easier now than it was 4 years ago, but we're going to learn about how Nearpod can help you get some direct instruction, kind of instruction to your students during distance learning. But this is something you're not just going to want to use during distance learning. You're going to want to keep it and add this to your teacher toolbox when your students are back in the classroom. Today we have Bart Allen and Melinda Chersnowski, who are from EO Green, and then I'm going to add some stuff at the end. The first thing I want to make sure you know, and I had sent an email because you're going to be entering a Nearpod as a student. If your students have Chromebooks, they're going to go to Nearpod, just nearpod.com, and there's this red box that says students, and they enter a code. Students don't sign in, students don't create accounts, students don't do any of that. That's just for teachers. You just give students a join code and they enter the lesson you've set up for them. Okay, on iPads, they're not going to go to the website, they're going to use the app, and the app is in self-service. And when you open the app, it looks like this, and they're going to put the join code in right there. All right, so what I want you to do, if you have a second device, cool. If you're able to go between the Zoom and the other, that's great. If you want to just watch, that's fine too. But go ahead and open up either nearpod.com, the website, or the app, because we're going to give you a student code in just a second. All right, and we'll start with what it feels like from a student perspective. So I want to introduce Bart Allen. Bart is a science teacher at Green, and is going to show you some of the ways that he's been using Nearpod with his students. Bart, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Okay. And actually, you talked about giving them a code. There's another way where you can just send them a link and they'll get taken right into the lesson too.
Okay.
So that's the way I just make it idiot proof.
I think Melinda's going to talk about that with the share to Google Classroom.
Okay. So, are we waiting for people to log in then right now with this?
Go ahead and sign in and use the code. I'll show you from the Nearpod end because we're going to be able to see the teacher view on the Zoom when you see my screen. I just went to live lesson and it shows me, here's your code. I could email it. This is where you get the link, right, Bart?
Right, that's where I do it. Yeah.
Okay. Melinda's going to show how to use Google Classroom to assign it. Either one of those work, as well as put in your join code.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is, while people are doing this, after you put in the join code, it's going to ask you to enter your name, I think. Go ahead and do that.
And they always ask, do I have to put in my real name?
And you say?
They have to, yeah. Otherwise, they won't get graded because there's a report that is generated by Nearpod. So if you want to check, you want to give them a grade or you just want to see if they did it, you got to know who joined and who was watching. So you have to tell them to put their real name in there.
Yeah. So Helen, did you hear that? You got to use your real name, Helen.
Well, I'm already logged in, so it didn't give me an option. Someone's asking, I guess it's giving them the option to enter as a student or teacher?
Student.
Okay, student.
So this is what we did right now is we launched a live lesson, and I'll be showing you later, I think Melinda will, where you can choose live or student pace. This is live because we're all going to be going at the same pace. So I'm going to click continue. This is going to show you the screen, and this is the screen that you see also. I'm going to show you a couple things before Bart gets started. The first is the code's always right up here. Okay, so if for some reason something happens, you need the code, it's always in the top right corner. If you look at the bottom, and again, this is the teacher view you're looking at on your Zoom screen. On your device, you're going to see it from the student end. If you look at the bottom from the teacher, I can see that there are 16. I'm trying not to pop up the Google Slides toolbar. Down at the bottom where it has the green people with 16, that's how many people are signed in. So I can click there and I can see who's in. Okay, if this dot ever turns red, that means they left. and they're not in right now. That's during the live. I can also come down here and see all the slides. If I want to show something, I can hide student names. All right. But I think we're going to go ahead and get started, Bart. And then I will advance the slides. You're going to see teachers that are using it as a student view. You're going to see that when I advance the slide, it advances it for you also.
All right, you good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so I like to use Nearpod because I use it as a way to deliver a lot of content or information to the students, which is usually a pretty dry lesson. If you have to, in the old days, you would just lecture, right? We never really lecture anymore, but this is a good way to give them information and engage them at the same time. They have to be involved in this. They can't be a passive observer in this thing. They have to actually do things. And this engagement can be in different ways. They can just get information or go to a website online. They can engage with other students. There are activities where they can collaborate with each other, which is really only relevant if you're doing it in the classroom versus distance learning. And they can engage with me, or they can engage with games. So there's a lot of different ways to keep them going, and you can even assess them also. Some of the reasons I like using Nearpod as well, it has a library of lessons already prepared, and I'm in science and I've never been able to not find a lesson. So if I need something on food chains or anything, I can go get a lesson that's already done. So if you're in a bind and you need a lesson for tomorrow, you can always go find something in their library to present to the kids. It may not be exactly the way you would do it. It may have some vocabulary that you don't think is great, but there's something there. So you can always start with that. In fact, that's a good way to get used to Nearpod, is using someone else's lessons. You can create.
Then Bart, you can take that lesson and you can edit it. So if there's something in there. Mm-hmm.
Right, you can take, and that would be the next step then, just taking a lesson and modifying it, making it yours. And it's also, I came from like a PowerPoint background. I'm very familiar with slideshow presentation stuff. And that's kind of what it is. If you think about it as like a slideshow on steroids of these really cool things. And they just released a way to do it in Google Slides. So you can actually make your presentation in Google Slides now, which seems complicated, like Liz was talking about. But once you get the hang of it, it's actually easier. It's easy for, like at EO Green right now, we're actually, our science teachers are working together for this distance learning. And so we share lessons. We have a school library as well. So I can just drop my lessons into the school library, and other teachers can just easily pick them up and use them as well. And that way we're really in sync that way. And predominantly you'd use these in the classroom, but they have a way to use them for distance learning that's really kind of cool as well. Students can do them on their own time. And in the past, I've done this for students that have been absent or something, and I just say, okay, here, I put it on student mode, and they can go do this at home or over the weekend, or if they're going to be gone for a week, they can have the same lessons. They can just do it on their own. So it's easy to do this for distance learning for me. And then Nearpod has these really cool things that engage students that I've never seen in any other software. So that's what we'll hopefully show you today. All right. And like I said, you can use Nearpod anytime. I tend to do it at the beginning of a unit or some kind of a topic, so I can introduce the vocabulary and lesson and give them the content up front. So in the example I'm going to show you here, a couple of weeks ago, we launched a unit on the ecosystems. And at the beginning of a lesson, I really want to hook students or trying to get them engaged and interested in something. And so they have a feature called Field Trip that I like to try to use as best as I can. So when we were talking about ecosystems, I got this. On the next slide, you'll see what we call a field trip. And this is something that, this Nearpod has a library of all these things. And so you just go pick one you like. In this case, you see a picture of a scuba diver here, but if you click on that screen and keep your mouse clicked down or your touchpad, you can move this thing all around. You can push with your fingers and zoom in, zoom out. And so now, instead of just seeing a picture of an ecosystem, they can see an underwater ecosystem and actually kind of interact with it. And kids can spend 5 minutes clicking around looking for stuff in here. They love being able to do this kind of thing.
If you're trying this on your phone or your iPad, pick it up and move it. It works when you move it.
They have a lot of these also for history. I teach ancient civilization, so you can go back and visit the tombs of ancient Egypt and different field trips like that, which are also really great.
Yeah, it's actually, there are a lot of really cool ones, especially with the social sciences I've seen. They visit a lot of really cool towns and cities and stuff that would be really fun to do. It's actually less so with science for the field trips, but it works.
All right, I'm moving on. If you're
All right.
enjoying the ocean, we're going to the next slide. Be ready.
Another thing they have is they have a library of 3D animations that you can use. So a few months ago, we did molecules and atoms and molecules. And so I chose the one you'll see here. But again, they have these for everything, especially for like the heart, the human heart, and all this kind of stuff. But you can click this again and rotate it, zoom in, zoom out. This is a very simple one where you can explain, I think it's like a water where you can see two hydrogens hooked up to an oxygen, and you can kind of give them a better feel for some of these things. Again, it's not just a static picture, it's actually something they can interact with, and they can have fun playing around with that. This is the virus one. They just did this one with the whole coronavirus thing. This is a virus, and you can, again, get them, if you're trying to talk about, what a virus is, you can have a visual now that really explains how crazy these things look. Another thing that is really fun to do is after you give them a little bit of information, a little content, you can have them interact with it with games. They have several different types of games. One is really, really good for the classroom, so I'm not going to talk about that one. But the other ones are kind of fun as well. And like I think this example I have here is a simple way to start getting them to interact with new vocabulary, for example. So I think this is going to be a quick little matching game that they're going to play. Oh, I think you went. Did you go too far?
No. So people who are on it on their devices at home, they're seeing the matching.
Okay,
This
they see it then.
teacher
I'm
view.
looking at the results. I got it.
So
Okay.
you guys are going to match, and then this is what the teacher sees.
Right. But this is really easy to set up. You just, from a teacher standpoint, there's just an empty screen. You can just put a picture on something, and you can type in words. It can be all words. It can be all pictures.
And there's a Google image search right there, right?
Intuitive.
All right. Has everyone tried it? Matching is fun. All right. Are we ready to move on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is actually one of my favorite ones because I think kids like to be able to draw and use the drawing tool that they have here. In this case, what you're going to see on the next slide is I put up some pictures in what they call a background. Just have pictures there, and I wanted them to draw after we've been talking about it. For example, I want them to now show me the flow of energy through an ecosystem. So they would use a pen tool, and they would draw arrows, and they could show me if they truly do kind of understand what's happening with energy. So I would use this as a slide assessment. And in the middle of the lesson, I can see the results as well. If they're just not getting it, it helps me spend a little more time on it. But this is kind of the crux of what this lesson would be like, is talking about energy through a system. So they get a little, they can do it once with me, and then again, I can give them another one where they do it on their own.
Okay. So when I go to the next slide, what you're going to see on your slide is the picture, and you're going to have your drawing tools to draw. What you're going to see on the screen is the teacher view, and we're going to be able to see everyone's work in little thumbnails.
And while you're doing this in the classroom, kids love watching other people draw these pictures and stuff. So this actually turns out to be really fun for kids when they get to draw something.
The really cool feature about this when you're doing a teacher-paced lesson is that you can share with the students without showing who created the drawing. You can share with the students. I learned from Bonnie Maxwell. She always does this thing called My Favorite Mistake. So if you're doing math or you're doing science and somebody has made an arrow, you can project that mistake to the rest of the class without the student being, with it being anonymous, and then have the students analyze the error. And half the time, the kids who made the mistake can tell you exactly what they did wrong. And they often like to share that. So that's a really cool feature when you're in class with the kids.
Yes, that's very true.
So I could, down here, this is where hide student names would be helpful if I were projecting it so you don't see who's doing what.
Right.
And you can see that one and go, well, you're not really drawing an arrow, you're drawing lines, but I want to see an arrow, for example. So I can't remember who that was in the yellow box down there. Probably Helen, apparently.
There we go.
There you go, nice arrow. So you can applaud a good effort and reinforce.
Nice.
Exactly.
And then this one that's submitted without arrows, I think there's an unsubmit, a go back and try again.
I feel like the in progress and submitted might be kind of a new feature.
Yeah, it is. It used to be you could just see the awaiting drawing until they submitted it.
Yeah.
But,
and then they can go back and do it again too. I mean, there's a way to erase it and do it again.
I like to give them time limits though. They can really eat up a lot of class time doing stuff like this.
That's true.
Self-paced is great.
Some of these actually have a time limit button you can put on it. I don't know if drawing does or not. I can't remember. But yeah, you're right. They can spend a lot of time on this.
Nice. All right. If you haven't submitted yet, go ahead and submit what you have so far, and we'll show you the next step. Okay. So I could click on one. I can arrow through to see all the ones I have, and I can share. Watch what happens to your screen when I click share. That automatically went to your screen. Remember, you probably wouldn't be seeing the teacher screen. And then I can go to the next one. Oh, here's some interesting ideas. And I can share that out to students. Okay, I'm going to close that. And we'll go on. That drawing feature is cool.
Yeah, and then, so then for assessment, there's different ways to do that as well. There's fill in the blanks. There's ways to write structured or, closed type sentences. I think I have a couple little examples. One is of something that's set up just like a Quiz or a Kahoot type thing. You can ask a simple multiple choice question and I just did a single question there. And there's other ways too. You can do things like polls that are better for the classroom, obviously. And you get a nice little graph, shows you if they got it right or wrong from the teacher side. Make sure you see the teacher side. It's kind of cool.
Usually it shows answers. There we go.
Mm-hmm. But you can also see how many people are actually doing it with the no answers.
Mm-hmm.
I like using polls a lot in introducing literature units. Like you can pose some questions before reading something and then show them the results of the poll and then ask the same exact poll questions after you're done reading to see, they like seeing how the class overall changes after they've learned new things, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can start with the collaborative one, which is another one, that the yellow sticky one, and then do the poll, kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
You can share ideas and collaborate and then do this. But again, it's hard to do in remote like this.
All right, so I'm going to stop this one and I'm going to click share on the teacher one. I just want you to see what happens on your student screen. So you can see the results, and then if you scroll down on the student screen, you can see what your answer was. And that's a quiz question. The poll works the same way, it just doesn't have a right answer.
Right. And then I also like to have them write in complete sentences every day. We try to write, I show a good example of writing in a complete sentence. So when you do an open-ended response, you can make them actually write. And that's good too.
Send an answer in. Send in something. Maybe carnivore.
But,
Maybe.
Just so we could see. There we go.
There.
Okay, so from the teacher end, you can see, you'll see all the sentences. Again, you can share. Perfect. We get the idea here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and then at the end of the class, or like for me in distance learning, I'll give them a deadline, say you got 2 days to do this assignment, and then you'll get a report, and then it'll show you who did what. This is just a picture of the summary page, and I don't know if Liz, you want to scroll through but they give you all the different options and ways to see the individual student responses.
Melinda's going to show a little bit about reports in a bit.
Okay. All right.
So we'll get more information. But each of
helpful.
these.
That's nice that I can just grade it right from the report and enter it right in a queue and be done with it.
This is showing participation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it also tell you their quiz score too. Like for certain things that they can grade, like the quiz, it'll tell you the results of quiz.
Okay.
But it won't tell you the open-ended response because it doesn't know what the right answer is.
I do like that it gives the overall participation though, especially since that's what we're really kind of monitoring during distance learning.
That's true.
And this is kind of what we did at the beginning, so it's redundant, I guess. But I just like to use either the links or I'll just send it right to Google Classroom. I very rarely now give them a class code. We don't need to do that anymore. It's just, it's helpful to have it anyway.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So yeah, it's really easy it syncs up really well with Google. It's perfect for Google Classroom because it's seamless.
Mm-hmm. And if you are a teacher on here who's using Seesaw, you could use that link as a student announcement and send a student announcement. Here's the link, go in and do this Nearpod. You do kind of have to tell students the first couple times you do it, there are activity slides that you need to respond to, or else they look and go, oh yeah, there's a question someone could answer, and move on. Once you tell them, no, you really do have to do some work in there and respond in a few slides. All right, so I'm going to close this out. You can, on yours, you should have exit in the top right corner. So on your student view, if you go to the top right corner, exit is one of the options there. I am going to leave this session. I think that will close it out for you. And we'll go back to the slides. And I'm going to leave that open because we're going to come back to it. So if you have any questions for Bart, Melinda's going to give you another example and then give you some more details about reports. But go ahead and type in any questions that you have and we'll have some.
Oh boy, do we have questions.
Okay.
Bart, there was a question. Are you able to send back something for if it's not acceptable? So for instance, with the if someone wrote an incomplete sentence, when you asked for a complete sentence, does it have the capability for you to send that back so the student can fix it and resubmit?
If I was in the classroom, I would just see that and have them do it right then and there. In distance learning, what I would probably do is I wouldn't notice that until I went and read the report. So then I could read it and then I can send it back to them and say, okay, I could either create a new code for them and just say, okay, fill this in, and that way their name will pop up on the report. That's probably the easiest way I would do it. I would think I would look at it, tell them to fix it, and then send it back to them, have them resubmit it.
Did you write those questions, or did those questions come with the lesson? And if you wanted to change or add to the questions, are you able to do that?
Yes, I wrote all that myself. I'm in the mode now where it's almost easier for me to create my own lessons. And once you get used to it, it's very easy. But in the lessons that are in the library, they have quizzes and stuff in there too. So you can find them with, off the shelf questions and activities that, come like that. But it's really easy to create your own as well.
What does the padlock mean on the screen in Nearpod?
I don't know. I just started seeing it and people asking me about that too. I don't even know what that is. I've never used it, never asked them to use it. I don't know.
And what grade levels can use Nearpod? Does it have activities for all grade levels?
I do 7th grade and it's perfect for them. I think Melinda does 6. I would imagine that we're
going to look at the district library or the Nearpod library. There are things for every grade level. Yes.
Yeah, I think you could filter it by the grade level at the very beginning.
When for distance learning, are you able to set time limits that students can spend on slides or no?
Yeah, I think so. I tend not to, just because I want them to get it done. And it's hard for me to not be able to help them. So I just let them have more time. But I think especially with the quizzes and stuff like that, I think there are certain timers I think you can put on them. Melinda, have you done that before?
Yeah, actually, I'm pretty sure in the drawing ones, most of them can have times set to the slides.
Okay. And I'm not sure, this might be Liz for you. Talking about Flipgrid, or this seems a lot like Pear Deck, that might be something, Liz, that I might have.
Nearpod is similar to Pear Deck. That's true. Okay. They're very similar. The main difference I see, Nearpod seems to have a more developed library of presentations already done for you.
Right. And can Nearpod be used with Flipgrid?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, is that coming up? Okay.
Yeah. Melinda or Bart, have either one of you used that?
No. Not yet, but I'm really excited to start integrating it. I'm thinking that it'll be a really good application to use for some of my ELD slides that I want to put together, because then there can be that speaking component at the end.
I think it's new. The new Flipgrid thing, I think is new.
It is brand new, that integration where you can put a slide in your Nearpod that takes them to the Flipgrid where they record.
Okay, everybody, that's all the questions for Bart. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so Melinda also at Green is a 6th grade teacher, and I love how this is so conversational, and I think what you're going to see that Melinda has prepared is going to build on a lot of what Bart has said. So Melinda, go ahead.
Okay, so I have been using Nearpod in a very specific way since we began our distance learning journey. In the classroom, I used Nearpod all the time for so many different things. Like I was kind of chimed in a couple of times. I will poll students at the beginning of a literature unit. Instead of doing stand up, sit down activities, sometimes I'll just put in a quick Nearpod. I will run student paced lessons in the classroom to add to like student choice boards for their independent learning time. So there's so many ways that Nearpod can be used, so many different applications, search through their lesson libraries, but really for distance learning, I'm using it very specifically. I found that I was able to kind of simulate a very close model of my math routines through Nearpod in distance learning, if that makes sense at all. So this, what you're seeing right now, is the main screen. If you were to click into one of my lessons, this was finding the percent using ratios. This is the second lesson for this little unit. And you can kind of see the scope and sequence of what I've put together. I have a collaborate slide, which does work through distance learning. If they're the first student to put information in the collaborate slide, they won't really see other people's responses, but they can always go back to it and check it out later. The draw it component that Bart mentioned, I use pretty frequently. It's kind of like my whiteboard check. And then you can also embed video. So when you click into your lesson, now this would be also the area where if you wanted to add something, you did the lesson and you're like, oh, for next time, it'd be great if I added this, or this didn't really work, I'm gonna take this out. This is the part of your lesson where you can do all of those edits. And you can see it tells you the type of slide, it gives you a preview to the question, and then if you want a closer look at each of the slides in the detail, you can click the preview button. So I like to start with collaborate in my math lessons. I always start with something kind of open-ended where they can, like a number talks type situation. On this one, how we were talking about fractions and percents, how are they similar? And so here you can see some of my student responses. So this is what the students are seeing when they click in. And I believe this is really similar to Padlet. I use them kind of in the same ways. They can also respond, they can input in there with a picture or, you know, all those different ways. The draw it, this, like I said before, is the next best thing to a whiteboard check. You can do some warm-ups of some things you've already been reviewing, or sometimes I'll throw them some questions I know they haven't learned yet just to see how they approach the problem. And here, I think were 2 different questions, but you can see different ways that the students responded. So in my reports, the bottom 2 slides are what the students submitted. So you can easily see like what they're doing to solve. And this is what I'm really enjoying about for distance learning. So I can create my own video tutorials of little mini lessons for whatever it is that I want to teach. You could also, you don't have to create all of your own videos. You're allowed to search YouTube right from Nearpod, or if you have other files that you already have saved on your computer, you can upload them right there. And so this would be like my mini lesson portion of the lessons that I'm presenting, the new content or the review content. And then after, I didn't show it because I already showed the draw it slides, but I always follow up my mini lessons on the videos with some draw it slides. Now apply what you just learned to a couple of questions so I can see if they understood what the lesson was about, kind of the way you would maybe in the classroom. So here is how I like to share. I use the student paste. It allows them to work on their own schedule. One of the questions that was asked to Bart was, can the students fix it? I don't think you can send back the exact work, but if you share it through Google Classroom, they can go back into that same lesson as many times as they want to. They can rewatch the videos, they can re-answer the questions. I have some students that have gone back multiple times because they want to get better scores on their quizzes, different things like that. So I think that when you share it through Nearpod, it gives you 30 days that it stays open and active for the one link, so they can go back as many times as they want to correct things. The live lesson would be more, I think, in the classroom, but I think most of us will be using the student paste. So you just click on the button to the Google Classroom. You can share the lesson. Like Bart was saying, you can give them the code. You can link it through Seesaw. In the classroom, I tend to just put the code up on the screen and then they all get in. But Google Classroom is such a seamless marriage here of Nearpod and classroom. You pick a class if you want to have, if you have like in a junior high situation, you might want to be shared the same lesson to multiple classes. You just have to go through the steps multiple times. If you're familiar with classroom, once you get to the part where you're choosing an action to create an assignment or to post a material, I like to create assignments and then tell them to go back and mark it as done when they've completed. It won't transfer their grades or their progress reports to Google Classroom for you, but I like them to mark that they finished, so I have that like note in my head, oh, I can pull the report for, you know, Susie. She submitted it a little bit late, right? So, so there's that. You could probably also just do it as a material and then not have them come back to Google Classroom. For there's a couple different ways you can see your reports. On the right side of your screen, you'll see where like the Nearpod library and stuff. You can scroll down to like that shortcuts menu and there's a report there. That's going to give you the reports for every single lesson you ever pushed out to your students. You can also find lessons for individual or reports for individual lessons by going directly to that lesson, clicking on the 3 buttons at the top and getting to the report from there. Now you can see that like I do very specific things, draw it and collaborate. So where Bart's summary page had more information on it, it's only showing me for the draw it right now. If you want reports for those individual parts, you're going to click at the top. Otherwise, you're going to be taken first just to the summary page where you can kind of see their participation. So the reports for Collaborate, and for most of them, you're going to get a little bit of a drop-down menu. They're pretty readable. Here's the report that I pulled for the Collaborate, the teacher view. If you look into the view only, you can see how they're responding. This is the Collaborate report. I just want to preface this with, it seems complicated, but if you get into this routine, I found that downloading the pictures for the Draw It slides are more user-friendly when you're trying to view them as a teacher for assessments. If you just click on the drop-down menu that they give you on the reports page, they're very, very little, very tiny, and you need a magnifying glass out to get all the small detail. So what I do for the Draw It reports is you can go up to the top and click on Downloads. I click the session view that gives you all the students in that session. Or if you click down to the student view, you could just get a report for an individual student for that individual lesson. I saved to my local drive. Like I said, scrolling through the pictures on my laptop seems to be a little bit more user-friendly, and I can just scroll right through with the scrolling tab as opposed to having to open each document separately. It saves it as a zip folder. You extract that zip folder to wherever you want to on your computer. I have a Nearpod Draw It folder in my pictures that I saved them all to. And then I didn't want to show you all my files, but then I'll have like lesson 1 for percents, lesson 2 for percents, so that you can kind of go back and have them organized and not be looking through a jumble mess of files. And then you just find your pictures, select the folders, and then when you get them, you can see at the bottom, you can just scroll through them and see the work that you're getting from each of the students, just like you would maybe on a whiteboard view. Okay, I do want to say this also, the Draw It slides, running the report for those, I think are the most complicated report to kind of get used to running. If you want to see it in detail, all the other reports are a lot more simple than that.
And I'll add to that, Melinda, if what I would recommend to the people listening who haven't used Nearpod before, do an easy one and then go to Mission Control, look through these slides, because you've got those slides to step you right through and you'll see how easy it is. It's just a list of steps to do. All right, Helen, are there any questions for Melinda?
Yes, there are. Is all of this free? Everything on the platform Nearpod free?
I kind of feel like that's more of a Liz question than a me question.
So the short answer is yes, that it is free because the district is paying for licenses. This isn't the kind of thing that everyone uses. So rather than taking all of the money it would be to buy 450 district licenses, knowing this isn't something that's for everyone, we have a smaller set of licenses. You just have to ask me to add you to the license. So if, and I'll show this in a bit, if you don't see that you're a district user and all your content is free, just email me and I go into Nearpod and add you in, and it's no problem at all. So yes, but not automatically, but yes. Thank you, Helen and Dave, for paying for Nearpod.
It looks like teachers are selling things on Nearpod that they've created. So is it like teachers pay teachers?
Nope. And that is not a thing that should be happening. I do not think Nearpod is a marketplace model, but what you might be seeing if you're not on the district license, you might be seeing that, yeah, people do have to pay for Nearpods, but it's not like teachers pay teachers. It's Nearpod saying, if you want this content, it's this much or this much. We pay for a blanket license that makes your content free.
How do students write on the whiteboard, the virtual whiteboard?
They use their finger.
Okay. About how many slides do, and this is for Bart and you, how many slides do each of you include for each Nearpod presentation approximately?
I think that it depends on what you're trying to teach. I like to think of my Nearpods as like little mini lessons. I've also used them with like our Lucy Calkins units. So for like a Lucy Calkins, I might have like a paragraph that you could have up there that they could highlight. You could have a video of your little mini lesson and then some feedback. So it could be as much as like one slide if you want to just ask a poll question, or 20 slides depending on what you want them to do. So it really just depends. At least I think, maybe Bart has a different feeling, but I think it's the purpose of your lesson.
Yeah, I tend to go by time more than slides, because some slides you can click through quickly. Sometimes you want to give them more time. So I tend not to want to go more than 20 minutes or so with any particular type of lesson. So it just gets too long. So 20, 25 minutes is what I gear my Nearpods for. Then we do something else the rest of the period.
How labor intensive is it to put together like a set of slides to create a lesson? About how much time?
I'll be showing that in a little bit for more detail, but you guys can give how much time you spend, sure.
Well, something's like if you're going to create a quiz, it's going to take you a little more time because you got to come up with a question, you got to come up with your answers and your distractors and stuff like that. But I can crank out I go to the internet, find a picture, write some text. I can have a slide done in 1 minute. So once you get used to it, it's really quick. I can do a slide really quickly. Finding something in their library like that field trip, you just click on it and it's done.
I would definitely recommend that too. I would start by seeing what the resources on Nearpod already are. There's so many great things already created, so you don't have to like invent everything on your own. But I agree also with Bart that it's kind of like all these new things that we're doing. The first couple ones that you make will probably take you more time. I've been using Nearpod probably since our district first started using Nearpod, so I can put together a math lesson in like 20 minutes. So think about your use of like how you would do Google Slides. At first, you're learning all these new things. It takes a little longer, but once you're comfortable, they're pretty straightforward.
For some teacher who's going back into the classroom and they don't right now, they won't have a class until next year. Is there, and maybe Liz, you'll talk about this, is there a way that they can get on now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll add accounts anytime.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to show you a couple things. For a teacher, we talked about students starting on their, what is now the red square. They may change their design at any moment. For teachers, you're going to go to the green block. You're going to click teacher, sign up or log in if you've signed in before. And then you're going to make sure you use the Google button. Sign in with your Google account. That's what's connected to Nearpod. Okay. So teachers, you sign in to create content. If in the corner you see silver user, then you're not on the district account. You're going to email me and I'm going to be happy to add you to the district license. And then you'll get this email. In this email, there's this link right here that says log into Nearpod. You're just going to click there, sign in, and then it's going to make you a district user. I want you to know this little house is where you're going to go to your library, and your library looks like this, where you have little tiles for all the shows or the presentations that you've used. Okay, here's the house. And then you've got your lesson library here on the left. You can go to the lesson library. There is a school and a district library. And then if you come down here, there are specific categories. Okay, so let me show you what that looks like. Here's the lesson library. Here are the different categories. If you scroll down, and then there's the reports that Melinda was showing. I don't know how they choose. Oh, I do know how they choose. These are the additional subscriptions that we added to our licenses. So I'm going to go to the lesson library, and I want you to see a couple things. In the top, you can put in your standard. You can choose a subject. You can choose a grade level. These are some filters. You also have a search right here where you can search for food chain or bears or percents, whatever you're working on. And then these tabs are by publisher or by content. Okay, so when we come over here, I can say I'm just looking for first grade language arts and math, and it'll show you what's there. Okay, or you can search for a topic. I want to show you, you're looking for the VR is the field trips. It's got all kinds of the home-based. There are so many things in here to check out. Some of them, oh, here we go, by publisher. What's the publisher? If you've heard of PhET, PhET is those interaction inquiry simulations. I think those are mostly science-based. LearnZillion, there's a, Newsela has a section. There is so much stuff in here, you guys, it's crazy. So, oh, here's the Newsela. So once you find one you like, you're gonna click on it. Let's check out what Newsela has. You're gonna click on it. Now, I'm looking for, let's go 3rd through 5th grade. This is gonna be a bundle. There we go. And it's got a bunch of them, okay? And I can see this is 4 different lessons. This is 7 different lessons. So sometimes you can kind of dig down to see what you're looking for, and you just click and open it. Here are the other ones. There we go. I can scroll down. Here are some others. What you want to do when you find one, if you use Seesaw, the Seesaw activity library where you heart it, this is the same kind of thing. You look at it, you can preview and click through it, and then you can add it to your library. Okay, I'm going to come back over here. I do the slides so I make sure I don't miss anything. So then you found a lesson and added it to the library. So I added this one to the library. Remember, I'm going to click on the house, go back to my library, and here it is. I've got all 5 of them in that folder. Okay, now when I hover over, that's when I see these. So my suggestion is start by looking through and finding a lesson that's already created, and then generate a code to send it. You're going to want to do student paste and get a student paste code right now, because they're not all going to be doing it at the same time. And you don't have to sit there and advance through slides. All right. But as Bart was mentioning, you could go in and edit. If I previewed it and there was something, oh, I only want the first section, go in and edit and delete the rest of it. Now, the other option, after you've tried some, you're familiar with how it works, you can create your own. Okay. You can create it in Google Slides, or you can create something right in Nearpod. And I'm going to show you both of those options. If you click lesson in Google Slides, I'm going to show you how cool this is. There we go. So I clicked in Google Slides and I went into add-ons and I got the add-on for Nearpod. And then when I click open Nearpod, it puts this over here. So all I would do in slides, I can build out my slides and go, oh, for this slide, I want to do a collaborate. So I can click on collaborate, and it's going to go right here to build my slide. That's not what I'm going to teach you exactly how to do right now. I just want you to know about this so you can go play with it. So you can choose your style. You can add your Nearpod slides right here within your Google Slides. And then when you're ready to go, you say save and go to Nearpod. okay? And it's gonna link your Nearpod with your Google Slides. The other option to create one is if you click Lesson in Nearpod. And if you click Lesson in Nearpod, you're gonna get a screen that looks like this. Now this is familiar because this is just what Melinda was showing you, that first slide with her math lesson, where you just add a slide. What do you want? Do you want it to be content? Like what Bart was showing, his ones where he had just written out text. You can create slides that way. You can put pictures on them. You can use your content. Do you want to add web content? That would be a website, that it's going to take the students to a website, but it keeps them in the Nearpod show. Okay, so content, websites. The most interactive one is this add activity. Do you want to add the open-ended question? That was like the what do you call an animal that eats meat? The matching pairs. The quiz question where there's a right answer and you get the pie graph. Okay, Flipgrid is the one we were talking about. You can click here and it'll put your Flipgrid board straight into your Nearpod. Draw it, collaborate, poll, fill in the blank. Memory, similar to matching, but it's a memory game. Okay, so you have all your activity options. What this does is it just adds all these slide tiles so you can see the scope of your lesson. I've got the content, I've got this matching, and then we're going to talk about vocabulary, and then I'm going to have them do this, and you can just drag and drop the tiles however you want and create your lesson. Okay, so there are two ways for you to explore after you've used some of the already created content. Make it in slides, make it in Nearpod to create your own lesson. All right. I'm going to come over here, and then this slide, there's some resources for you if you want to learn more. Of course, the slides will be posted on Mission Control, so you'll have access to these links. If you want to see more about the self-paced mode, there's a YouTube. If you want to see about collaboration, this is Zendesk is their help page. So there's a web page. There are a bunch of virtual field trips that you can use. This is the Nearpod page once you're signed in. If you want to see how to use Flipgrid in a Nearpod lesson, right now it's only for Chromebooks because it's web-based. It doesn't go into the app, but I'm sure that because this is brand new, they're just working on getting the iPad part ready. But if you're a teacher whose students have Chromebooks, using Flipgrid, here's a YouTube that's going to show you how. Okay? Are there questions?
Oh, Liz, Joy was pointing out in chat that her students are addicted to time to climb.
That's what I'm going to show at the very end.
Okay. She says it's a quiz disguised in a game.
Super fun.
There's a question, can this be linked to Seesaw, the lesson, or do students have to log into Nearpod?
They do not ever have to log into Nearpod. I want to be careful how I say it. Remember when we were talking about, I'm going to go to Student Paste and I can get the link. This link right here is all I would need to post in Nearpod. And I would do it in an announcement, or you could put it in an activity so that they can mark when they're done or do something to show what they learned. But this link right here is what you need. And students don't ever sign into Nearpod, they just go to this link. And then it asks them for their name just so it's attached to the report. And then if they're on an iPad, it'll go into the Nearpod app for them.
What's the advantage of creating in Google Slides versus in Nearpod?
The advantage I see in using Google Slides is you can design your content slides more. You have more options to design your content slide here versus using adding content in Nearpod. The other benefit is if you're someone who already has the Google Slides, maybe you've been doing Google Slide or PowerPoint lectures for years, but then you can bring this slide, and I can open any slide presentation I want and use that Nearpod add-in and drop in questions and drop in videos and drop in, if you know Flocabulary, Flocabulary is really fun. Raps.
Can I add that too, Liz?
Yeah, please.
When you like try to create something in Nearpod, they have like 3 font sizes: small, medium, large. They have a layout. You have to put your pictures where their template is. In slides, you can do whatever you want. You can pick a 9-point font or a 20-point font. You can put 20 pictures in there. It's just, you have a lot more flexibility in slides, and you can make it look a lot better in slides. Because Nearpod's not, that's not their background. Their background is these cool features. It's not how to create a really dynamic looking slide.
Right. I will add to that, don't spend a lot of time on animation and like getting different things to pop up, because once you put it into Nearpod, it flattens the whole thing and makes it one image that it shows as the content.
Liz, when you find a lesson and you push the student paste button, does it give you a link to add directly to Seesaw?
Yep, it was right here. So I chose a lesson. I have no idea what this lesson is. Student paste. Okay, this is telling me I already had a code that I just generated like 5 minutes ago, but I'm going to, I want the link. I'm going to launch a new one, we'll say. And as soon as you do this, link down here, there's the link. Okay, so I would copy this and I could post that wherever I wanted.
Okay, thank you, Liz.
All right. Okay, you guys, that is everything we have for Nearpod. All right, but I wanted to thank everyone for being here for Nearpod. I may have 15 emails right now from people who have gone in and said, add me to the district account, and I will do that as soon as we're done here. But I wanted to encourage you guys, go do all the awesome things. Nearpod is one of them. Thank you so much, Bart and Melinda, for sharing what you've been doing. The people who start, it's very unusual that I encounter someone who's like, yeah, I used Nearpod for a few months and then I stopped because it wasn't, they love it. Once you start using it, it's really, really pretty cool. All right.
Melinda and Bart, you got so many shout outs and kudos on the chat room. I think the public has spoken. They want you back again. So, all right. I promise we will ask Melinda and Bart back for another Collaborama. So thank you for all the kind comments. I also thought they were awesome.
Very, very good. Okay, I am going to, in the spirit of food chains, I just searched Time to Climb. Time to Climb is their gamed content. I will tell you, you can also create your own right here. Time to Climb. So if you're in slides, you can click Time to Climb and add in 5 or 6 quiz questions. It's kind of a twist on a quiz. So let's see, what are we in the mood to do? Food chains, that's the one I was looking for. Okay, I'm gonna go into food chains. I'm gonna add it to my library. You guys are getting your devices ready, I hope, because I'm about to give you a code. Okay, so it's in my library. I'm going to click live lesson. You know what? I'm going to put student paste just so we can see what happens there. There's your code. I could click here and assign it to Google Classroom. I could click here and assign and get a link. But here's your code, RESWV. Okay. As soon as you're in, you guys start playing. Those of you that are answering questions, are you seeing all the characters moving up the hill and you can see?
I don't know, Liz. They're so enthralled in the game. I can't read their faces. They're just
okay.
They look engaged, though.
So if you're in the game and you tap on any of those little, I can see Katie just went ahead of me. Rosie's ahead of me. They have names on them. Oh, Tish just got one right. Oh, so in self-paced, I just finished the game. And I can see that Sarah is in first place, Rosie's in second, and Katie's in third. But Karen just kicked Katie out of third place. This updates as people finish the game.
Dr. Stevens did that.
That's right. So I could go back and I could play it again and see if I could improve my score. Oh, Karen just did it again. She got to first place. So it's showing the updates.
That's strange. Karen's not known to be competitive.
And I mean, to know food chain science. It's an unfamiliar content, I'm sure.
Okay.
All right. So I want you guys to know that that self-paced code, that's good for, it said 29 days. So you can go into whatever that code was. It was RESWV for the next month, and you can play the food chain game as many times as you want. Okay. Now, thinking about that with our students, what do we want our students to do? We want them to want to practice over and over and over and over. So that's time to climb. This will be cut out of the video. It's a bonus for the live participants.
Yes, we have some competitive people on here, Liz.
Yeah.
The chat room is blown up.
Really? All right. I'm ready to wrap it up, Helen.
Okay.
We're pretty good. I did want you guys to see time to climb because that's a fun one. That might be a fun one to start with your students. I would not recommend starting by doing this over Google Meets because your time's going to get taken up with people. Oh, it didn't load. It's not doing this, because they're not going to be patient. They're going to feel that impatience to make it work right away. But after you've used a few, time to climb would be a fun one to do in a Google Meet. Just do live mode and have everyone who's there play. That might be fun. Might be good for a fun Friday. All right. Okay. Thanks everyone for being here. Thank you so much, Melinda and Bart, for sharing. This will all be posted on Mission Control in Blast Off PD for DL as soon as I get it ready, as soon as it's ready to be up. It'll be there. All right. Thanks everyone. Have a great day. Happy Tuesday.